This is the Making Waves Mindset Show with your hosts, Richard Biase
and Dave Moskowitz. Learn from our journey as we share the ups and downs
of being your own boss. Well, welcome everyone to another fine edition of the Making Waves Mindset Show.
Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us again and again and again. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for listening to us. Thanks for watching our little Max Hedrons on your YouTube channels. It's as we always say, thanks for joining, thanks for subscribing, and if you aren't subscribed yet, please go down, click that button, subscribe to our show, listen to us on your favorite podcast hosting site, and watch our show. Give us some feedback, leave a review. If you don't like the show that you're watching, send it to someone who might. There's lots of people out there who enjoy entrepreneurial type and following our journey as we get through this wonderful world of business.
Absolutely. For those of you who are first-time listeners and watchers, this is the place where we talk about mindset. For those of you who have been here from the start, you know what Dave and I have gone through. And the entrepreneurial journey is not easy. There's a lot of downs, and you never see the social media world talk about the downs. It's all about the flashy cars and look at me. But this is the place to come if you're thinking about leaving the 9-to-5, you have currently left the 9-to-5, or are decades ahead, like our guest. So, Dave, please introduce.
That's right. We are honored to have a good friend of mine and entrepreneurial extraordinaire, Basem Hanna. And to give you welcome, I should say, welcome, Bas. Thank you for taking the time out and joining us. And just to give a little background to our listeners, Bas and myself met in the fitness world back in 2011 ages, doing the as the thing goes, people love to talk about CrossFit. CrossFitters love to talk about CrossFit, but we met at CrossFit, and
those are like firefighters, Dave.
That's right.
They always got to tell everyone they're firefighters.
Right. That's right. You haven't, unless you've done a CrossFit workout, you really haven't bonded with somebody. So
that's true.
You definitely bond with people over CrossFit.
On the floor, you're dying on the floor, and somebody's encouraging you to get back up. You don't know.
Yeah. Especially when you swap some sweat, right?
Yes.
Well, let's jump into who you are and sort of your background and where you come. Our listeners are looking to see, where we can leave the 9-to-5 or how we can get out of the corporate world, how we can get into business, and what are the downfalls and the wins that we can look at. So maybe let's just get into a little of your background and we'll go from there.
Definitely. Sure. Let's start with an intro. First and foremost, Dave, Rich, thank you guys for having me on. So for everybody that I don't know that's listening, my name is Basem Hanna. I am 37 years old, and my story goes a little bit like this. I was born in Egypt. I grew up and still live in Mississauga. I was a pretty average kid in high school. I didn't really do much work, didn't have any confidence in my own abilities. Went to what was formerly known as Ryerson University for my first 2 years of secondary education, and then made the switch over to Western, where I did the Richard Ivey School of Business for the last 2 years of my undergrad. After my undergrad, I actually moved to Europe for a few months, and I worked and before I started work, I was just being a bum student. And then I got a really good job at a management consulting firm called the Boston Consulting Group in their UK office, which is kind of like a great launching pad for my career. Realized I didn't like consulting too much, and they didn't like me. First lesson in failure is just because you land the job doesn't mean that you're going to be good at it.
Very much so.
So, and then I reset and I went back to some basics of like, what do I like? Where do I want to be? The richest people I knew in my life were kind of rooted in real estate. So I followed that path. I got a job at a company called First Capital Realty in their acquisitions and development department. Did that for a few years, and then I got a job at a real estate private equity shop called the Rose Corporation. Did that for a few years, all the while building my experience with what I would call industry leaders and giants. Um, and then after the Rose Corporation, I decided to take the leap into entrepreneurship. I started a small real estate investment company where I could put my family and friends' capital together so that we could start buying bigger real estate than we could on our own. And to be clear, I had no money of my own. The reason I had to work with others is because uh, my family and I are first generation Canadians, so we usually don't come with much. And I very much longed or sought after for a long time wealth for the sake of the fact that I never had it, and I thought that it would solve all my problems. It doesn't. Uh, and so by pooling people's money together, I could earn a return on their capital by putting in sweat equity. What started off as a small fund where we raised $1.6 million the first time we went out from, I think it was like 9 investors. Uh, Omega is still running. We're in our 12th year. And we are at something like $50 million of actively managed equity. We've also given back a bunch of money that's
Wonderful.
funds that have been closed.
Wonderful.
We went from doing buying small 9 unit apartment buildings to now we are developing a piece of land to a 3 tower, 1,000 unit uh, condo development in Mississauga, and we have another one in Toronto. So things change over time.
Yeah.
It's good. Um, and in the middle, I had a really cool, interesting experience in 2014. I heard about, or in 2013, I heard about the legalization of medical cannabis, and the laws were coming into effect in 2014. I thought it was a once in a lifetime opportunity, so I jumped in with both feet. I put my real estate career on hold so that I could start a cannabis company with two friends and co-founders. We were very fortunate to catch the upwave of the cannabis market in 2017 because we've been working on it from 2014, 2015, 2016, getting our licenses, building the factory. And then we took the company public in 2017.
Wow.
And it really shot up with the stock market doing what it was with cannabis companies back then. We took on some very strategic partners that operate out of the U.S. because we knew that regardless of how big Canada was, the U.S. is probably 10 times bigger. And now the company is probably a top 5 global cannabis producer that is run out of the States with our U.S. partners, or I guess the U.S. managers now. And we had a very successful exit, which then helped us launch the next phase of all of our lives. And then that's why I came back into real estate in 2018 after I was done that, and we started doing much bigger, bolder projects, which is these development things that we're working on right now. I have a loving wife who I've been married to for pretty much my entire entrepreneurial journey, and we have 3 amazing children who we love dearly. And everything else we can talk about throughout the show, but I've been talking for a while, so that's me.
Yeah. That is a snapshot, and you're very humble in terms of your explanation of what you're doing. But I want to rewind for a second to the moment where you decided to go into real estate and to take on equity from friends and family.
Yeah.
Go through the thought and the mindset that you had at that time, and the feelings that you had with you and your family at the time. Or if I know that your backstory, but for our listeners, what was your family situation? What was your mind thought and taking equity from friends and family?
Great question, which I'm sure a lot of people who don't come from money experience. Uh, to give you background, in working for First Cap and Rose Corp, what I learned was how the very successful aggregate capital. Whether you're a publicly listed company like First Capital Realty or you're a private equity shop like the Rose Corporation, it is never really one person's money that does everything. There's a handful of people in Canada that can write big enough checks to do landmark real estate. So you start to realize that there's a formula to this stuff. And Dave, you and I talk about this all the time. I'm a Coptic Christian. Dave is Jewish, and I have mad admiration for the Jewish community because they came one or two generations ago, depending on like where your grandparents were, and they really, and it's not just the Jewish community. There's a Jewish community, the Italian community. There's a big Greek community that, like, all the people that kind of came to Canada. Or whose grandparents or great grandparents came to Canada in the early 1900s. They all have a very similar story. There was a patriarch or matriarch that worked their ass off as like a plumber, electrician, like a janitor, whatever, bought a small real estate something, and then built it into something massive. And then it gets to a point where the second generation, which is likely well educated and they've gone through good schools and they do whatever, they're like, okay, well, how do we level this up? And it's by then talking to the community around you to allow to, on a basis of trust and respect, to then aggregate your capital together to then take on bigger tasks. So in watching like First Cap or observing First Cap and Rose Corp, what I learned was, our community, the Coptic Christian Egyptian community, has no representation like that. We are all most of us came in the late 80s, early 90s, if not are arriving now. And they set to task at doing what that first generation normally does, which is, in our case, there's a lot of like professionals, so doctors, lawyers, dentists, pharmacists, yada, yada. So they get their licenses, they do their thing, and they're working their not regular, they're very important jobs, but they are more traditional. And then they long for the fact of now they've been in the country for 20, 30 years. They've got a buildup of some wealth, but they have no idea how to do investments. They're doctors and dentists and whatever. Like they can fix your heart, but they probably can't like diversify your portfolio.
Right.
So, so I guess I was very lucky because I knew I didn't want to go into medicine or engineering, which was a big blow to my parents really early on. But they knew I was different. Like they knew that I didn't like it, and I was better at sales than I was at, studying or whatever it is. I've since become really good.
I was gonna say that you've changed that a lot because I know some of the schooling you've done recently. So
it's not you can't really avoid that. And I just fell into a really good position with my community where, as I was becoming more educated through my First Cap and Rose Corp experiences, I would talk about them with my friends who had parents who were in those positions. Right? Like we all kind of grew up together. All my friends are now like in pharmacy school or in medical school or whatever. And here I am, they're telling me their thing and I'm telling them mine.
Right.
And then I quickly realized that we don't have anything like this. Like we don't have a pooled mentality into like wanting to grow something that's bigger than any one of us alone.
Right.
And then those conversations they would always end up leading to conversations with the parents. Like we would either be at their house or they would be at mine, and the parents would then start to like talk with me about, tell me more about real estate. How do I do this? And like I own a condo, and I'm like, condos are great, but like there's things that can produce cash yield, and one thing leads to another, and then it just kind of hit me. I'm like, it's not going to start unless somebody starts it.
Right.
And to the best of my knowledge, I didn't really see anybody around me that was doing it. So I was like, why not us?
Why not
me? Right?
Yeah.
Like, I know the stuff that I need to know, and what I don't know, I can figure out. I'm young enough, which is critical. Most of the time, people figure this stuff out later on in their career, later on in their life, where taking a risk is harder. You have more responsibility. You're older. You just think about the world a bit differently. So I said, let's go. And that's really how that first fund started. It wasn't like I went out and I always knew I wanted to do something for myself. Uh, I had no idea that it would go down this path. I feel like very blessed that it was, and that the community supported me the way that they did, and they continue to. Um, but it's a two-way street. Like, because you take your family and friends' money, I have a lot of sleepless nights.
Right.
And a lot of the time when we're losing money, it'll be my own that I don't tell them about.
Right.
Like, if we make a mistake, I'll really try to absorb the hit myself. Um, and so that's kind of how that started, right? Like, it was this desire to want to create the next. It's basically copying a page out of a playbook of communities and cultures that I admire, that we admire, because we haven't been here that long.
Right.
30 years is a long time. I've been in Canada for 32 years, but there's a lot to learn. And we're only starting to scratch the surface of the good stuff that can happen when you're no longer just eating what you kill, or like working with your hands, and you're allowing that money to work for you. So that was the process, or the mindset behind started in real estate, or getting started in entrepreneurship, really.
Right. Those are some great points. I like that, is not making the kill for just you, right? Don't just go hunt for yourself and your family. Opening up those doors for those communities and building those communities from the outside in. And
you have to. Unless you come from a situation where you're fortunate enough to have successful or wealthy parents, or people in your family that are just going to like boost you and give you the contacts and do whatever, there's no way you're doing it alone. No one does anything alone. No man is an island, right? Like, there's it takes a community to build something special.
Right.
So if you're trying to do something long lasting, odds are you're going to need to rely on people. There's a saying that I've been using since maybe the first day that I started this, which is, and I say to myself, I don't really say to sell others, but if I make the people around me rich, I'm probably doing okay myself.
Right.
Right. So, like, worry about them, and the rest will get taken care of.
You know what's interesting, Basem? I want to dive in there. Is Dave and I have addressed this on the show, where you can't chase the money. You have to go with your heart, and the money will come to you. And then building these teams and building that family, like, it's so key, because even our other guests are all about finding mentors, working in a team. If you're out there trying to like sway that sword around and do it on your own, like, you're going to be in the ditches by yourself. You're not getting out. So it's really humble to hear, again, another guest talk about teamwork, the importance of surrounding yourself with the right people, and it brings the same level of enthusiasm from others around you who want to go and be a part of Basem, going, look what he's doing. I want to be there too. And it's just so successful.
You said it probably better than I did, right? Like, if you're swinging that sword alone, you're not going to win, or you might, I don't know, but like, you might have to have Chat GPT, like, plus I'll tell you something, like, non-financial, the best feelings that I've had in my career, in my life, are celebrating my wins with those I care about, or who I've established a relationship with.
Yes.
Right. Like, if you are winning alone, you might not like that feeling as much as you think. There came a point in my life when TerraSen was wildly successful, that I kind of forgot myself for a little bit, right? In the sense that it's like I achieved like my life's goals. I'm like, okay, I'm chilling, I'm good, I'm whatever. And I really did forget that that there's more to it than the money, right? When you're just thinking about the money and your own personal success and patting yourself on the back, that's not what drove me to get to where I was. And so it really didn't mean much when I got it. Right? I thought it would. I really did. And I think like I went through big depression because I was like, why am I not happy? Like I've climbed the mountain. I've done the thing. Don't have to like work as hard as I did before. And I realized like that was completely unfulfilling, and it wasn't about the money, which is ironic because I chased that money since I was like, Dave's known me for a very long time. Dave probably saw me do all the conference calls and whatever in between workouts at the gym.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Mid workout, he would drop his weights, get on the phone.
Yeah, like it's just the way it is, right?
Wow.
So, not often, but like
It
you have to pick up.
Yeah.
But then you realize it's like it's the grind, it's the hustle. Like I enjoy the passion of somebody telling me no, and then me knowing that I can, or me not knowing that I can, and applying my whole heart and effort into something, and being okay with the result as it comes, good or bad, because I've had bad, right?
I think that's something we got to dive in on, though, is when you hear the no, taking that energy and going, oh, yeah, I'm going to show you I can do this. Because I think that's one of the biggest roadblocks for entrepreneurs. It's that frustration. Like Dave and I are always like, when you hear no, that means there's somebody. Actually, we're talking about Colonel Sanders.
Yeah.
When KFC, this was on our last recording, he lived in Mississauga. I don't know if anybody knew this. I found out it was actually like Dixie, Queensway area for over 3 decades. Okay. But he had gone to over 1,100 restaurants to sell his recipe. Every single one of them said no, but that didn't stop him. It was like the 1,102 or whatever. And it was like, that's the one that made his worldwide chicken empire, right? It's so silly, but let's dive into that. Let's dive into the mindset of when you hear the no, what can our listeners do who are stuck in the 9 to 5? They want to get out, but they're just afraid to take action. What can we do?
What can you do? Okay, I'll give you.
Conquer the mindset, push it. Listen to that voice.
I'll give you a real life example of things I'm going through now, because it's easy for me to talk about things that have been successful, because you're like, deep down I always knew. But right now, with building these large scale buildings that I'm doing, I'm swinging for the fences again. I've gone way outside my comfort zone. I've taken people's money along for the ride. And real estate is very much an old boys club. Like my biggest hurdle right now is not a person telling me no, it's lending institutions telling me no, and major private equity backers like the CPPIB and the OMERs and whatever, like the pension funds that back these big developments. They look at me and they're like, bro, come talk to us when you've built your first, second, third building, and then we can talk about investing with you.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hear this shit daily, and I'm like, well, what about my experience in cannabis, and what about all the redevelopment stuff where they're like it doesn't translate for us.
Wow.
Right. So now here I am sitting, and as I speak to you, yesterday, I received like a big piece of rejection from an equity partner that I wanted to work with, mainly because they were strategic, and they're like, you know what, for whatever reason, we're not going to do it. They loved it. We got along. I went through like 3 or 4 meetings and presentations with them. Everything was like, I actually thought the phone call was going to be like to say yes.
Wow.
And they called, and it wasn't even a phone call. They just like texted me, and they're like, hey, we're not doing this. And I'm like, like that, it sucks. Like yesterday at 5:20, I was great. At 5:25, when I got the text, my like world shattered a little bit, and then I gotta look, and like my kids, all of a sudden my mood's changed, and like my kids are looking at me like, Dad, like, we do something.
Yeah.
I'm very open with them though. I tell them everything that I'm going through. I'm like, no, I just got like a big piece of rejection that it's really bothering me. Like, so Like, I definitely don't want them to think it was them and pick up on everything. But what I did yesterday was I journaled. I wrote it down.
Good for you.
And I'm like, the last line of my journal, I don't remember what I wrote because I journaling is something as a goal I set for myself in 2023. I've been dying to write bits and pieces of my life down, life lessons and all this stuff, and I always find a reason not to. So I picked it up in 2023.
Good for you.
And what I wrote down was that if it was easy, anybody would do it, and never give up. That's really what it comes down to. And I could be wrong. I could go down in a blaze of glory with what I'm doing right now. I don't know, but that's what I like. Like, if you have entrepreneurial mindset, you have there's a switch, right? Like, you can't go to that 9 to 5 every day. You're always on like the other side of the what if question. Like, what if it fails? But what if it works?
That's right.
Like, what if it is? But what, I'm like, and so I've just trained myself to never give up until I feel like I've exhausted every option. Like, are they the only equity people that I can go to? No. Have I received 10 no's before this? Yes. But I only need one yes.
That's right.
Right? And the minute I have my first building built, I know this is where you have to have confidence in yourself. If I'm given the opportunity to put towers in the sky, I think the existing real estate world is in trouble because I don't do it for money, and I will give a lot of it away. And that'll fuck this real estate industry up in a good way.
Yeah. It's not if, it's when you do
I was just going to say, it's not when. You took the words out of my mouth. It's not if, it's when.
Well, like, and like, I believe there's a when.
Yeah.
But I also accept the fact that there might not be. You have to be okay with that. If you just keep avoiding the ugliness of failure in your own mind, you don't get to become at peace with it. Right. I'm not saying accept it. I'm just saying know that it's a possibility. Know that you can fail. And it'll be okay. Your world might change, like I might lose investors. But they're along for the ride because they believe in me. I'm along for the ride because I think that I have a purpose in what I'm doing right now that is more important, or that I'm hungrier than the next person. They might have an advantage, but what I lack in, experience in this thing that I'm doing, or capital that follows me or attracts me, is I know I'm hungrier than all of them, right? And there's going to come a point where their experience won't matter and their connections aren't going to be there to save them, and then it's going to be me and them staring at each other in the face, and all those extra reps that I've been doing are going to come into play.
Right. Boom, pushing to failure.
That's
cool fitness analogy. Yeah, forget the extra reps.
There is going to come a time when none of that stuff matters, or people won't equate that I'll get to be seen on the same field as they are, but I'm not there yet. Right. I do need to build my first building. I do need it to be successful. I do need to show crazy returns to my investors, because that's the chatter. Yes. That's what builds the legacy and the reputation and the whatever. So you got to live through the shitty days.
Yeah.
You have to. There's actually more shitty days than good days. You usually have 1 or 2 good days when you achieve the thing or sell your whatever, but really in between, if you don't enjoy that grind, ask yourself if it's the right place for you to be.
Right.
Yeah. It sucks sometimes. All the time.
Yeah. Especially the no's, right? And like you were saying last night, you go from being high and being in a good mindset with your children and having a good time, then you get that text. So you got to be okay with being able to control the mindset with the bad times more opposed to the good times, right? It's that understanding that you are going to get the no's, you are going to get that punch in the face, I call it, and multiple punches in the face. And you got to be okay with it. You got to be a bit of a boxer, right?
Man, I'll tell you, 10 10 years ago, 11 years ago, when I started or 12 years ago when I started my entrepreneurial journey, you can ask Marina this. I was a hot mess. Like I didn't know how to separate my emotions, and like I would receive a piece of negative news from a non-family related thing, and Marina would be the only one there. And she'd come in, she'd be like, "How'd you be?" I'm like, "Don't tell me how my day was." Like, I lose my mind or whatever. Like, and I wouldn't even be able to explain, even after the freak out, I wouldn't be able to explain why I was being a dick.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
and it's easy to admit now because
Of course.
she now knows. She's like, when I like fly off, she's like, "Did something happen at work?"
I have to.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to. I want to just say one quick thing. And your wife is lovely, and she's one of the nicest people I know. So,
The reason I am successful.
Yeah, she is. She's a lovely, and you have a beautiful family. So I have to mention that too. Basem is an entrepreneur that everyone should be watching, and also for his integration of his family into his life. He is definitely someone who I put on a pedestal when I look at family life. So I just wanted to sort of interrupt the story with that.
Thank you. I don't receive compliments like that. I got to get better at that.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that. The community has built me up, my family and my church community, and beyond my church community. Because although like Omega started with Coptic Christians investing, it is way past that now, right? And it's been a beautiful integration of, it's not a religious thing anymore. I think I have all of the major religions covered in my investors. And atheists,
the mixing pot of investment.
Yeah, well, it's very much like my birthdays, Dave.
There you go.
Rich, I usually have this like big birthday bash every year where I literally invite everybody in my phone. Like to show up. So
pretty epic.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. There's Rich, to your original question, like it's like learning to accept the failure, right? Like it's like you have to prepare. The fear of getting punched in the face is almost worse than getting punched in the face.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. So just like get punched in the face.
Yeah.
You'll survive. Like hopefully you'll survive, and then you'll move on. And if you don't like that feeling, or if you're like, that's the last time I ever want to get punched in the face, then you'll change accordingly. Right. But sitting on the fence, or like I'm not sure, and by punching the face, I mean like taking the entrepreneurial leap, or surviving the failure or the rejection that you get. Bro, I've become a master at rejection. I was like, I can't imagine what this version of me single could do.
Right? You'd take over the world.
I don't know. I would probably, it's not a healthy pursuit. It doesn't. Yeah.
You know what I really enjoy now, at the stage that I am now, I get ramped up when someone says no. When someone says no to me, it energizes me. I'm like, no, okay, that's cool. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it anyways, regardless of your no. And when I do it, then I'll get another no, but that's fine. I'm ramped up now, and it's pushing me to get more no's because I know it
hurts first. Like I'd be lying, it hurts first.
Of course.
When I get that no, there's a lot of self-reflection that happens, and it doesn't matter if it's like a minute or an hour or a day or a week. Right. But you become your own worst critic.
Yes.
Right. So, and like Rich, I don't know much about you, but I've seen Dave's story. Like, Dave throws a lot of compliments my way. I've seen Dave from like point 1 in his journey to where he is today. And it is
night and day.
Mind-blowingly impressive. Like to watch you make the moves that you've made and to take the risks that you take. You do it all with a smile. it is, you know, it is humbling, and like it's surrounding myself with people like you too, that makes that journey fun, right? Like, what day is it? Is it Tuesday? It's Tuesday afternoon. We're doing.
I have those moments too.
Yeah, like, well, all the days are kind of the same. Now.
Everything's the same as an entrepreneur. It's like, what day of the week is it? What time?
And you get to pick your times. You get to pick your moments. That is the benefits of entrepreneurship, right? Like freedom of time sometimes. Yeah, not always.
Sometimes, yeah.
Those are all like blessings. Can I switch it up and ask you guys like a question?
Of course, yeah.
I'll admit I like glanced through the making waves mindset. Like, you guys got a lot of episodes, so I commend you for that. What is the, like, give me the best non-me episode, obviously, that's happened on this show. I'm just curious. And why was it like that? We can try to improve. We got a bit of time. We can.
Yeah. And I'll
This is a new segment, Dave. We got to have like a whole voiceover, like new segment, Making Waves Mindset.
You know, I'll let me preface the question and the answer, just so our listeners know, and because I love pushing Bass as a person, he has a podcast as well.
Oh, does he?
Yes. So let's plug it a little.
Self-promo here.
Let's plug it a little, and then we'll give you that answer.
That's why I'm asking the question. I want to know from veteran podcasters. To learn some stuff.
Yeah. So
first of all, I need to get cool backdrops like you guys have. Here I am, like a schmuck with my own background. Like,
what we actually need to do is do a live when Rich is, for our listeners, Rich is in Florida right now, but when he's back in Canada,
that entrepreneurial lifestyle is real nice.
Listen, Dave can fill you in. There's a whole reason why we're down here, but like it's. I don't want to cut Dave's point off, but it's the when we did this, it was the draft version, Basem. We didn't have all the fancy this and that you see on some of these YouTube channels. Like, we're on YouTube, but we're just us, and we're just going to put our authentic, organic, who we are out there. And, you know, we got the background like before, like episode 1. I'm sure Dave could listen to episode 1. Don't listen to episode 2, and then go listen to the last 5. You'll be like, what the hell happened to these guys? It's like from draft pencil eraser to, we got the felt pen out now. We're getting a little bit more refined.
Repetition, man. Like anything else, you get closer to 10,000 hours, you guys are going to be, you know, signing serious.
Oh, come on.
So to sort of dive in a bit about the answer, we've had some amazing guests. Some of the guests that we've had, and we've actually started with their journey to, like, go back and listen to, we just put out today Nicole Salmon. She was one of our first guests. Yeah, one of our first guests. She was a homemaker. She went through some PTSD issues. She took some time off. She decided to do hand knitting by herself, hand knitting blankets. Simplest thing, just to get some stress relief in her life. She ramped that business up within a year to now she's in her second year. She quit her job, and now she is a full-time entrepreneur selling blankets to people. Like, that is, to me, Bass, these are the the softest blankets you'll ever touch. They're awesome for the couch, the kids, the dogs. Like, they're incredible blankets. And she went from 0 to $1 million, right? She and overnight. And just because she decided, let me take a leap into something new. And she pivoted her whole career.
You will blow yourself away with what happens when you remove your own roadblock.
Yes.
Right?
But we create a lot of those roadblocks. 100%. Like, I think a lot of them, it's just our own mindset.
I still have roadblocks, but I'm just not sure I want to unblock them, you know, because there is consequence with every decision that you make. They're probably not entrepreneurial roadblocks, but like, I'll tell you one. I'm like, do I want to live in Canada for the rest of my life?
No. We could talk about that, but
that's a whole nother episode.
It's a whole other episode.
Yeah. I'm saying, like, that's one for me, but like, I'm pot committed here, and for all the reasons, I'll tell you the other side of that. For all of the reasons that you're saying no, I want to dig in here because I'm like, this is the country that raised me,
Right.
right? I'm an Egyptian by nationality, but birthright, and this is the country that raised me. So all the reasons that you're saying no, minus weather,
Yeah.
has the ability to be changed. Although global warming is really, Canada's going to turn into Florida in like 50 years.
That's
So
true.
you
That's true.
might be on your way back.
That's fair.
But like, if all the good people leave,
Right.
and this is something I like seriously think about all the time. Like, if all the good people leave, then what are you left with? And did you give back to that community?
Right.
Right. And so, not to guilt trip either of you, but like, hello.
It's a whole
No,
episode
no,
because
and
I know
and
investors who have left. I know a lot of people, and I think, the pandemic stuff and the way our government handled things, a lot of people have left and they're not coming back. They're in Costa Rica, they're all over the US. And I struggle with that too, because I'm a second generation Canadian. My family immigrated from Europe. They came with nothing on boats arriving in New York and Halifax, and it's like, could I make a difference here? Or on the other side, I also recognize the United States is the ultimate entrepreneurialism support superpower, where Canada, it's all about, did you get another degree? You need a third master's degree. It's just like, it's a very different mindset, but it's a topic for another podcast. And I'm having some of those struggles as well. And there's a reason why we're here, and we can fill that in, off the table too. But it's something you think about.
An example of like your own mental, like, you build that up, right? And I think there's arguments for yes and no, right? So they can kind of like tie it back to the original point.
Yeah.
Like, to take that leap, to be the entrepreneur, to take the next risk, to do like, I guess the point I'm trying to stress is, it's not always the affirmative.
Right.
Like, you don't always have to do the thing. And like, as much as we're going to glamorize failure and do like 90% of entrepreneurial ventures fail, right? So there's a big like field of dead hopes and dreams and the consequences that come with that.
Yeah.
The field of hopium that never rose.
The airplane graveyard, right?
Yeah. So there you have to, like, if we talk about this, we have to talk about that other side.
Right. You're right.
But that's like the difference, right? Like, the last 10% will be the ones that make a big difference. And maybe the state, like for me, like my arguments are really easy for staying in Canada. I just built a house that I want to enjoy. 4 years building something to leave like 6 months into it.
Yeah.
My kids go to school here and they like it, and I think it's a really good place to educate. And then my friends and family and community. It would be so hard to leave that.
Of course.
I'd be the last person to leave, to be honest. Last one off the boat.
For me, I like what you said about the community and building that community and giving back to the community that helped raise you. I think there's a lot to be said about that. Especially what you've been doing and what you've been building. I think it's very important in your journey, and I commend you on doing that, because that's something very noble. For me, we made the decision to come back here, actually, because we were in the process of leaving, and we made the decision to come back here and start building businesses here. And I think now we sort of have this drive to build businesses here, but then leave. And for me, it's like,
the winter's okay, obviously.
That's what it is, and that's for me what it is. And it's we want to build something that's community oriented here, and that's what we've done with Stretch Lab, and we're going down that road, and we want to continue doing that. But I think eventually we could see ourselves not being here in the winter.
I mean, I agree. Like, once my kids once they're old enough to not need me to like wipe their butts, I will.
Yeah. I want to mention we had another guest who has also, that we had early on, Soraya Zidane. She is a personal trainer, and she left her career in sales and finance to go to Mexico during the pandemic and begin her personal trainer journey. And she is now one of the Apple's top personal trainers in the world. She just got named. And, someone like that is who took a leap and just said, "Forget it, I'm out of here."
Yeah.
Decided to move away. She's originally from Belgium, so she doesn't have any roots here in Canada, but she originally came to Canada to get her citizenship. And during the pandemic, it pushed her away to start her own personal journey in entrepreneurship. Those are probably, I would say, from our standout guests, even though all of our guests are amazing. We've had buddies like, Ferris and Adrian and some great.
Oh, they put on the podcast?
Yeah, they have. So we've had some great conversation. Ferris with his breakout in his woodworking company, and Adrian with his history in terms of cartooning and stuff like that. So we've had some great guests, but I would say our two standout guests are those two people in terms of their entrepreneurship. And the other thing we like to do is not always go with somebody who's so entrepreneurial mindset, people who are just all of a sudden just got fed up one day and said, let me take this route and take that leap and see what happens. And those, for us, I think, for me at least, it stands out as
I want to hear Rich's opinion on this stuff too. Are those the same two that stand out in your mind?
Yeah, Soraya, I love Soraya. That was, I think, an incredible recording, but maybe more so because we had some other similarities and things and the reasons why she wanted to move on. But one group that comes to mind, I'm just looking at my Spotify here, Terminal 3 Coffee in Mimico and Etobicoke. Mm-hmm. These two guys I knew through a friend in the real estate investment space. Leases out his place. He struggles to find somebody to come in there. And here come these two business whiz, these finance whizzes, who are like, we're going to start a coffee roastery in Toronto. Nobody's roasting coffee in Toronto to solve a problem, solve a niche. And how could they be different than your typical, Buxes and Hortons and all that garbage? Right. And it's incredible because Dave and I went there in person. We did a recording. They're roasting beans and they're literally sharing the battle and the risks and all the things they had to go through to open a coffee shop that roasts beans. And they're so successful. Like now it's like, okay, where's the second, third, fourth store going? And just to hear that success. But on the other side of the guest, it's also what I've enjoyed. It's Dave and I talking by ourselves. Mm-hmm. We recognized, and we've still yet to have anybody kind of bring up to us the downs. Nobody talks about the downs, I think, on any podcast, any channel. And Dave and I have been very open about failures. We've been very open about the struggles we've had in business. And I think if I could amalgamate, the top, it would also include the episodes I do with Dave one-on-one, because it gives us a chance to reflect. It gives us an opportunity to support one another and go, yeah, that's right. And I've had Dave kick my butt, go and stop thinking like that, go here, because I've run into some roadblocks right now where I'm in this weird pattern and it's very effing frustrating. But it's just going back to those and going, yeah, those were solid episodes. And that's something that so many people can learn from. It's just hearing our personal journey instead of those uber successful, those in the middle, or those just leaving, But right. Yeah, Soraya was solid. Nicole, I'm going to be upset that we didn't name all of our guests, but even Terminal 3 comes to mind.
Yeah, you just cut that part out. Yeah. Well, I think the point about you and Dave having your one-on-ones, I think this is a form of therapy. It's journaling. Yeah. You're live journaling your thoughts, right?
We'd like to author a book one day based on our show. We were just talking about that before you got on. It's like we have a digital library of guests, thoughts, feelings, the emotions and experiences that we now could put into a book, and we could publish that book and share with the world and bring people also into the program, So yeah.
That's really cool, man. That is very cool. I like it. I'd read it.
Thank you. It's awesome. Well, let's not dive into too much. We would love to have you back on. I know your time's very valuable, so we appreciate your wisdom, your words, and sharing, and your time today. We thank you so much for being on.
Thanks for
plug yourself for a second. Let our listeners know where they could find you, where they can listen to you. Right? Hint, hint.
Sure, yeah. So plug my podcast on your podcast.
Yes, absolutely. Collaboration.
Yeah. I like it. Well, we'll have you guys on mine, but it's live and you have to do shots. That's like, yeah.
Actually, I'm looking forward to the one you did with that artist.
Oh, Anthony. Yeah. I just finished recording it on Friday. It turned out really well. So,
can we have cigars?
Pardon?
Can we
Yeah,
have cigars?
absolutely. Cigars, cannabis, alcohol, whatever you need, bro, whatever you
Remember,
need.
he owned a cannabis company, right?
Geez.
Yeah, so my podcast is called the Basem Hanna Podcast. You can find it on my website, basemhanna.com, BASEMHANNA.com. We're also on Spotify and Apple, or on iTunes and YouTube for the video versions of it. The podcast is really about the entrepreneurial mindset. It's very similar to this. I try to have guests on that have unique experience. And then I have like 5 to 10 minute personal rants where I think I do very similar stuff to in terms of just reflecting on the uglier, less sexy side of entrepreneurship, and it mainly focuses on real estate and real estate investing, which is where I specialize. So thanks for giving me the opportunity to plug. And you can find me on Instagram, Basem, BASEM_Hanna, HANNA, or on LinkedIn, Basem Hanna. And I think that's all the social media platforms I'm on. Not yet on TikTok, but we'll get there one day. Yeah.
Soon to be dancing around on a
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Basem, before we close out, is there anything off the top of your mind that you kind of want to share as your last closing chapter here, a takeaway that those listeners who are just either thinking or struggling right now, they can go, man, that's what I needed today. Putting you on the spot.
Yeah, no, it's no problem. It doesn't matter if you're starting or you're in the middle or you're wildly successful. You experience bad days. Don't let the bad days define you. Take a minute, reset, and then reevaluate and see and make sure that you still want to do what you're doing. I guarantee you that your purpose will overcome any one single or combination of shitty experiences. So just never give up. The only person that can stop you is you. So keep going. You've got friends. You've got 3 friends that are cheering for you, even if we don't know you.
That's right.
Totally.
Great words. Great words.
Dave, where can our listeners find you?
I am on LinkedIn, David A. Moskowitz, or Instagram, or come on down to Stretch Lab. Come get a stretch.
I'm coming.
Come get a stretch. Adelaide and Spadina. Look us up. Stretch Lab Toronto downtown.
He's been getting some incredible media coverage. I got to shout it out there. If Dave's not going to share it, I'm going to find it and share it. Like, you got to go down. You can also find yours truly, Richard Biase, on Instagram and LinkedIn. Until next time, everyone, continue to dream bigger, make waves, and take action in life. And we'll talk to you on our next episode.